Hey, what's going on? Welcome along to episode 71 of the Strategy and Conversions podcast. I'm Jamie Michael Joseph, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Mark Tanner.
Hello, everyone. Yes,
Mark,
moving into the 70s.
I know
My
I was just about to say the same thing. We say it every podcast, right? It's like a shock to us. I bet people
Yeah,
listening are just like, these guys know what episode it is. Why are they shocked? It's just saying it out loud. It's just, conversations with people. You say to them, oh, yeah, episode 70 came out today, and they go, 70, 70.
yeah,
It's like a
seven
shock
zero.
because most people start something, don't they? And they give up by the time they get to double
Mm,
figures. It's like,
yeah,
to keep going. I think we show what we're doing. We've still got a long way to go to like the ones who have like 1,000 episodes out and stuff like
yeah,
that.
of course.
But
Yeah,
it's like the whole kind of point is just having that consistency, isn't it? It's just
yeah,
keep doing it. And I think that kind of importance of just doing something you love as well. I mean, again, how long have we been speaking now? A good couple of hours before we even
oh,
hit
yeah,
the
yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
And we don't talk about what we're going to talk about in the podcast. We get to the
No,
point where we go, better record a podcast now.
yeah,
You
that's
know?
right.
And it's like, we talk about topics, don't we? So we always kind of look at a few different topics. And for this one, we said, look, let's talk about learning because
Yeah,
it's been a big topic that we've been discussing lately about, what are your learning aspirations for the year?
mm,
What is it you're looking to build knowledge on, build experience on? And that could be in business. It could be in personal life as well. I mean, we'll keep it more on business, but it could just be that thing. Like, what is it you're looking to learn throughout this year?
yeah. I think it's important because we were just talking earlier, and I'm speaking to somebody a few weeks ago, and they were saying that a lot of reasons that business owners um, don't do things properly or are fearful about doing things, not maybe lacking their confidence, is because they don't have the skills of that particular thing. So in a lot of businesses that I've come across, where they do it, they're doing everything themselves for the moment because they they realistically don't have the cash to, or they don't have the cash flow to start farming things out. Um, and so they need to know a little bit about possibly, let's say, bookkeeping, because that's a nemesis of a lot of people is understanding bookkeeping. And they getting a little system and thinking, oh, what have I got to do now? I've got to do my bookkeeping. I've got to do this, and just keeping track of not only the business ins and outs, because that's kind of profit and loss and that kind of stuff. But more important is the cash. How much cash you've got, what things have you got coming ahead, and what have you got to plan for. But what was really interesting was the thing that you said, isn't it, earlier, about somebody asked, you talked to someone about SEO, and they said, what's SEO? So again, it may be that you're trying to create your own website, or not necessarily trying to create your website, but you maybe have that done, but you want to know why it's not appearing anywhere. And then you have this magic little three thing called SEO come up, and you start to understand more of that. And I think we're not making the point that you've got to be expert in these things, but you need to have a bit of knowledge about them, really.
That's massive, isn't it? You don't have to be an expert.
No,
I think
no.
that's something that goes on in the world today. Is like if you're not the so say expert, then you don't know anything. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and I think you get a lot of that that's built into the whole kind of Instagram lifestyle. And if you're not on a yacht somewhere and driving supercars, you're not successful, kind of thing, right?
no.
And I think it's the same with the expert. And like you say, there will be someone who's an SEO expert. There will be someone who knows quite a bit about SEO, and then there will be the whole kind of thing of, yeah, I understand SEO. I don't do it myself. That goes out to someone else to
Mm,
do. But I understand it, in a way, what it does, where it fits in, and then I can outsource it. And to me, that's the whole kind of learning part that I think a lot of people, especially people in business or people who have aspirations to go into business or start a business, is that they should build up their knowledge on business areas. And
yeah,
we talk a lot about marketing, don't we? Because I talk a lot about marketing, and we get into all the kind of nitty gritty and things like that of like SEO. But really, just coming back to marketing and going, I just need to know a few bits about marketing to get
yeah,
going. Like, okay, I understand that I need to promote myself here and I need to do a bit of that. But there are so many different areas of business where we get into things like you already said about finances. We get into kind
yeah,
of important
yeah,
contracts and stuff like that.
yeah,
And then we actually get into business processing and fulfilling. And
yeah.
there's lots there, right?
Oh, there it's huge, isn't it? And just going back to the from the very beginning in marketing and prospecting. Yeah, when you say, well, how are you going to market your business? Are you going to go networking? Are you going to go to or are you going to do it online? Are you going to be using LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever? Those whatever you're going to be using, you need to know about those platforms, how they work, what they're expecting. And if you're going to go to networking, you need to know you need to be able to communicate well and know who's in the room. Now, that's an easy thing for some, to say, but there's an awful lot of network events I've been to where you have people who just they they are rubbish at telling you what they do and what their business is about, and you listen there for half an hour and you think, I still don't understand what you do. So it's learning to be concise about telling somebody that the whole elevator pitch thing, um, but business is hard work, especially when you're on your own. It really is hard work. And when your cash is tight, you can't afford to outsource things immediately. People say, and I know I've said it to people in the past that you can't afford not to, but yes, you can when you don't have the cash.
Yeah.
So it's things like if you're gonna if for example somebody comes, you have an opportunity for say get some funding in your business, cash, maybe it's a loan from the bank, um, uh, all sorts of different things. The legal aspect, you sign a contract. So if you've got a bank loan, you'll get fund. You'll have a contract to sign. Do you really know what you're signing? I mean, it's easy to say, I can read through all the small print, but do you know what certain terms mean? And it's just very basic stuff like that of knowing what this term means and what you're signing for, and not making sure you're selling everything, selling the crown jewels if you want to get some business funding. Because in this day and age, most businesses need some kind of funding to actually get off the ground because everything's sort of costing money and stuff. So there's so many different areas. So I would suggest that for a lot of people, they've got to look at the different sectors of their business and just ask themselves, how much do I know about this? And it could be business processes, for example, or calculating conversion rates. How much do you really know? And what do you have to do? It could be just a book or a video to watch, but what do you have to do to enhance your education on that particular point?
I think it's massive, mate. A few things you said there, like, yeah, okay, that you're signing a contract for funds. That do you know what APR means? Do you actually
Yeah,
know what you're paying?
yeah,
It's that kind of thing now. And we're talking about that in business, that you could be getting a car or something like that, and it's that thing. I don't know what that means. Well, look, you got Google, right?
yeah. Cool.
Is like just check it out. You got YouTube, but like check it out and like, have the right people around you, people you can ask, even if it's friends, connections and stuff like that are already in business. It's just asking a question. You don't need to go with them for services or anything like that. It's just asking a question to see, okay, do I understand this now or not? And a big thing, like, you have the reverse side of that as well. If you're selling something, what contract do you have when people sign? What
Yeah,
kind of terms are in there? If you're providing, say, a website service to someone, do you have a contract that says that you have to supply this stuff to us so we can move forward to this step
yeah,
within this time frame? Because if you don't, we can't move forward.
yeah,
You don't want to
exactly.
be spending a year building a website for someone because they're really slow at, you
Yeah,
sending stuff over and you're not getting paid your installments or whatever it is. So,
yeah,
you want to be able to put a contract there. And it doesn't mean that you have to know everything about law. And it doesn't mean that you have to go and spend 5 grand on a contract from a lawyer, right? It's that you just have to know it enough to have something there that is solid, and that
yeah,
could be then, okay, maybe you don't need to spend, say, 5 grand on a solicitor or lawyer to create it, but maybe you could spend £50 or £100 to learn a course about creating a
yeah,
contract, or buying someone's time on a Zoom or something like that to just go, like, I just want to
yeah.
ask some questions. Is this right? That kind of thing. And like you said, we've all signed up to the Apple terms and conditions without
Oh,
reading the
yeah. Without reading.
97,000 pages or whatever
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is,
yeah,
right? But it's like, but for most things in business and stuff like that, it's usually straightforward. We just need to know that we're not being caught out. But you say there about learning. I mean, we're talking now about kind of knowledge and stuff like that, but actually learning a skill
yeah,
is a major thing as well. Like you said, that whole thing of networking.
yeah,
We've all seen it, and we, I mean, we've probably been to countless networking events, right? I reckon it's got to be up in like the thousands.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah,
past like 7 years and stuff. That's how we met, right? A networking event. How
yeah,
mad is that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's like, but if we think back to the first time we went, we didn't know what to expect or something like that. We've kind of rocked up somewhere, and it's like, okay, you probably spent the whole time being quiet and stuff, right? But it's like now, if I went into a room to network, I would network because
Yeah.
I have that confidence. I've done it all before and everything like that. But it's like you could shorten that process. You don't need to go to 1,000 networking meetings to get to
No,
that point.
that's right.
You
Yeah,
could learn a skill. It could be that you read a book. It could be you watch a video. It could be that you get some sort of coach or something like that that helps you. Okay, you build your self confidence when you go into that room. You can go and speak to someone.
mm,
Because it's just a conversation. You're not there trying to pitch to them. You're not there trying to like make them buy something from you. You're just going to have a conversation.
yeah,
And it's like it's learning that skill then of going, okay, look, I just walk in, control the room, and I'm happy. If nothing comes of it, nothing comes from it. But I'm just going to
yeah.
go see who I can connect with.
And this is a good point as your business grows, isn't it? You have to learn new skills as your business grows. So you might start it off as being on your own in business, but then when you decide to, you might decide that okay, I'm going to have to get somebody to help me out. So you get maybe a lot of people I've seen just think, right, okay, I'm going to get along a VA to help me with my diary management. That always seems to be a first thing. And the VA will say, well, what's your processes? And you look and you think, oh, I don't know, I haven't got any. So process management is what is a process? How does a process work? And I'm not talking about having to go into this huge understanding of flow diagrams and when decision points and all that stuff that you get in complex project management stuff. Although having a real very very simple overview is quite interesting and to help with you. But it's just okay, a project manager. What has to happen here before that can happen? And can this run at the same time as that can run? And if it can I deliver a project earlier than I did before? And yeah, that's a really interesting point you raised there about web designers. I remember when I started out quite a long time ago. I was talking to a web designer who was in real problems because they had started a project with a client, hadn't really mapped out what the project was, so they hadn't really put together the deliverables, if you like, at the end of the project. This is what we're going to do. We're going to work this way, and this is what you're going to get at the end of it. They hadn't done all that. It was just yeah, we'll start doing that. And then they check. Yeah, the client would say, well, this will be good. Can we have this there? And then, oh, that would be really good. But can we have that bit there? And what about this bit? Can we do that? And could you do that? And all of a sudden, the project just exploded. And of course, he couldn't deliver it on time because yeah, if he had known what was involved when he started, he wouldn't have taken on probably. And so he got sued because the customer said, "Oh, well, you haven't given me anything." He said, "Well, no, because you keep changing the goalposts." But where's the contract? There isn't one. Ooh, huge area for learning there is get a contract in place if there's that kind of thing, and what to put in the contract. And just another thing that I mentioned there about this whole area of GDPR, that everyone has to have GDPR contracts. Yeah, the law is saying you must have a GDPR policy. What is it? And it must be written. And you think, oh, I don't know what goes in a policy. So they'll go onto Google and they'll download what they think is a GDPR policy. But they may be downloading stuff that doesn't really apply to their business. So you have to start reading through and thinking about those things. So it is, yeah, you're right. There's so much stuff
That there, I think that leads on nicely to where we are in today's world with AI and the likes of Chat GPT, right? Because you can ask that anything and everything.
Yeah,
It will confidently give you an answer, even if it's wrong. And
yeah, oh
be like,
yeah,
yeah, this is the answer. And like you can read through it, and you can be like, hang on, this isn't quite right. And that's why like that thing that you don't have to do everything yourself, but you have to know some of it. There's lots of courses and stuff like that out there that give you sort of templates and stuff. And it's like the templates are okay, but they're a guide. You
yeah,
still have to kind of adapt things and stuff like that. I can remember something a while back, and it was something to do that there was a guy in Australia selling something, but it's like the kind of contract that the template was all about Australian law. So it was like it wouldn't apply
Mm.
to us in the UK. It wouldn't apply to someone in the States or anywhere else in the world. Big shout out to all our
Yeah.
listeners around the world, right?
Yes.
We were
Yeah.
talking about this earlier, where it's just like the States have overtaken the UK in the listener poll and stuff like that now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we love you wherever you're listening in from.
Yeah.
And it's like, just get in touch. Obviously, anything you want us to discuss on the podcast, just let us know.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Follow us on any social media platform. Give us a like, a share, comment, whatever it is.
Please do.
Share it with
Please
someone
do. Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
We love you for it. But yeah, that whole thing, like with ChatGPT, I mean, some of the stuff that it chucks out, you kind of go, whoa, like this is really good. And then there's other things where you go, it's totally missed it, or even like that, like going back to SEO, right? So SEO, search engine optimization, is it a bit of a dark art? Yes. Look, no one knows exactly what to do to kind of get things moving up. All we can do is just do the right things in the right order and stuff like that to kind of put a combination together that things start to happen. And once you do that, they do start to work, right? But with SEO, that there are lots of different levels to it.
Mm.
You could be having a chat now with someone like, like I said, chatting to someone about SEO, right? And I've kind of told them what it is. They could be talking to someone else now, and they can be explaining what SEO is, right? And you get that whole kind of whispers thing, don't you?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's broken down and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Right? And it's like, and then you can have stuff where you're talking to people, and it's like, right, okay, yeah. Once you go past the basic level, you can play about with this and everything like that. And then you probably got, the experience level and the expert level. But if you just put a question into ChatGPT, or even if you're just asking the wrong people, you're learning from the wrong people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You could be getting answers back that they're not necessarily the wrong answers, but they're capped.
Yeah. Do you know, it just reminds us just away from that slightly. It reminds me something about, I remember being sold a product to by an American company, and this isn't anything to do, not denigrating American companies at all, but this person hadn't done their homework. So they sold me a product and I wasn't really keen on it. I think I'd had it for a couple of days. And I said, oh, okay, I want to return this. And they said, you can't. And I said, I can. I have a right in the UK for 14 days to, if I'm not happy with it, I can return it. And they weren't aware of that. They didn't know that. And I'm thinking, if you're going to sell into different countries, you've got to know, you've got to know their laws. You've got to understand, if I sell this, there's in the UK, it's called a 14-day cooling off period. If I sell this into the UK, whether it's from Thailand or the US or Canada, wherever, you've got to be aware that is law in the UK. You can't just because you're trading for America, you can't get over that. So all those kind of things are all, if you're going to go, which, and let's face it, a lot of stuff is so easy now in international shipping through Amazon and that kind of stuff. You have to be aware of what you're doing and the different I mean, I remember I was at one stage, I was what they call an Amazon seller in an FBA, and we're selling stuff on Amazon, and the different VAT laws I had to try and get my head around in different countries was just mind-boggling. It was, and so a lot of people get back.
I mean,
Sorry,
tax in the
yeah,
States. I mean, even different states are
yeah,
tax, right? So in America, the different states there will be different tax laws and stuff like that. But I was going to come on to that actually and say, throughout the podcast and even with the coaching and training stuff that we do, we never get into things like tax and stuff like that because it's such a wide, it's such a wide world out there that
yeah,
it may not be the right advice. It may not be the right kind of stuff. And like, I think even that kind of caveat. I mean, look, from anything we say on these podcasts is like, as much as you have been an accountant, you don't say I'm an accountant, and it's like we're not solicitors or lawyers or anything like that. It's like, we can only tell you stuff from our experience. Now, our experience may not work for you in the exact same way, but that's the whole point of learning, isn't it? Is learning what's worked for other people and adapting it in the way that it works for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And I haven't been a practicing accountant for a long time, so some of the stuff I might come out with might be total rubbish now. But I understand the principles. But yeah, my
massive, right? So that part there is what I was about to say, right? The fundamentals you still know, though, right?
Yeah,
it gets to a balance sheet and stuff like that. You still know, and that's the whole point. I think when we talk about learning, is learning the foundations, learning the basics.
Yeah,
you have that level one knowledge, right? You're
Yeah.
not just like totally. So like we are saying with SEO is that, everyone talks a good game, right? So when you said about the VA, right, or you talk about the SEO person, or you talk about the business coach, whatever it is, all of them will be telling you that you need their services, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you go to the
Yeah.
networking event, everyone's going to tell you how much you need their services, right? And the SEO one, yeah, you need this, you need that. But if you don't understand it, I mean, it sounds really good, right? But if you don't understand it, you're like, well, I'm going to take a chance on this because everything that they just said is what I want. But you may not even have a website.
Mm.
Or you
Yeah.
might just have like a website that's off somewhere on like Blogger or something like that you won't have
Yeah.
this thing, and it's like, will they still take your money? Probably. You might get some
Yeah.
say, look, we can't do this here, or you need to do that. But the whole point there is, without having that basic kind of knowledge, you're always going to be at a disadvantage. So
Yeah.
building up those skills in different areas, you don't need to be the expert like we've been saying, but just having that kind of knowledge, you may not, you may not look at running ads on Facebook yourself, right? But you might go, okay, look, if I just give money to someone else, when I stop paying them, they turn it off, right? So how about, I understand that I can just set it up and then I can pay someone else to run it, but when I stop paying them, well, I still have control over everything.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, and that's huge. And I again thought about things like websites when you get a company to create their website. I've heard horrendous stories where companies have created a website for another company and they own the domain.
Yeah,
And so the company whose website it supposedly is doesn't have control over it at all. And if
yeah.
they decide that they don't like their web developers and want to move somewhere else, and they
Starting
lose
from
their
zero.
they start from zero. It's
Yeah,
absolutely manic, but it happens, and you have to understand that. And again, it's going back to as you said, going back to the fundamentals of accountancy. Seriously, everybody in business who wants to grow their business, they need to understand the basics of a balance sheet. If they don't, and they do sound quite complicated to start with, but once you do get to understand it, they're quite easy to follow. But the balance sheet, more than the profit and loss, is a good reflection of the company and how the company's doing. And as you start to grow your company, you might want to take on staff. You may think about a team or everything. Initially, it's likely that you're going to be doing some of that HR stuff yourself to start with, because you might take on one or two people. You're not necessarily going to be having being able to afford or whatever to get in an HR consultant to look at this. So you've got to start learning employment law. So I was coming back to this earlier, that as your business grows, your knowledge has to grow in different areas, and things that you did know about, you might say, well, I don't really need to know about this at the moment. I can move on to some, but I need to upgrade my thinking on and education on employment law, and what is the rights of them as opposed to what are my rights, and how does that work, and that goes on as well. But one other thing is important, isn't it? Because I remember talking to an IT guy who now back to working on his own. He had a business. He's still got a business, and he's got some amazing contracts. And at one stage, he was employing staff members. Okay, and he had a complete and utter headache. He hated it. And the problem is that everything is in his head. Absolutely, he's very, very good at what he does, but everything in his head. And you've got to be aware that if you're that kind of technician, which he is, and you're still that technician, if you're taking people on, you've got to be able to teach that to other people. Now he couldn't teach to save his life. He knew everything, and he'll just spout some knowledge at you, but that's not teaching. And so the people he got who weren't as good as him, it probably were, but he wasn't allowing them to be. It's that kind of understanding that you have to pass on your knowledge to someone else, and that's a skill as well that you have to learn. So there's a skill of training people to be as good as you want them to be. And yes, you could send them on we've talked about this before, and you get an apprentice, and nothing against apprentices, but you get an apprentice, they go on a marketing course and they come back. But their marketing knowledge they built up has got nothing to do with your business. So they have a general marketing knowledge. And you say, but I want this, 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 and this. And they'll look at you and they won't do it properly. You'll get annoyed and frustrated because they're not doing it properly. They get annoyed and frustrated because they've never been taught it. So, and eventually you part company. And like this IT guy, he parted company with his technicians because he thought they were rubbish, which I suspect they probably weren't, but they weren't doing what he wanted because he wasn't showing them, you know?
And that stuff there, mate. I mean, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because even as far as you want to go into something, it always comes back to those kind of things of you need to be able to measure it. You need the data and stuff like
Yeah,
that, you know. So even
yes,
there, you're talking about like the marketing apprentice, or even like with the IT guy with the recruitment side, is that if you're talking to someone, they keep saying, "I keep losing staff."
mm,
Like, well, why? You know,
yeah,
there's got to be a reason somewhere. You know, is that you need to be, you know, you should be documenting and see, you know, why is someone leaving? At what point is it they're leaving? And like I say, you can go as far as you want onto that, because even when we get into marketing and we kind of go, okay, look, someone's getting to this page, they're only getting halfway down the page, so they're not seeing the offer.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's like, so we're not getting anyone buying this. We're actually looking at the data, they're not actually seeing the offer. So, you know,
mm,
you know, we can't say that, you know, they're not interested in the offer. They haven't seen it yet. So it's like stuff like that is really interesting, because you get to break it all down. And coming back to that thing with learning, is that you can go as deep into something as you want, right? But what we're saying is we don't have to. And
no,
like you were saying as well, the kind of start. I mean, you're looking at that with business. I mean, we talk a lot about there being kind of 5 levels in business, and when you move through to another level, and it usually comes in and that you're making more money and, you know, taking on more staff, it does become a new learning process that you have to learn. You know, and
mm,
it's like that could be you're moving from being like a practitioner, a technician, doing stuff, to then
yeah,
managing. You know,
yeah,
and then managing managers and all stuff like that. You know, as you kind of move up through. But as you were saying, like you come right back to the beginning and you take the kind of entrepreneur who's kind of gone into business and they've kind of set up and everything like that. They are wearing lots of different hats,
yeah, yeah,
and it is like that to me, like that kind of starting up, the entrepreneur kind of side, bootstrapping, whatever it is always the hardest part, because like, everything is on you. So you have to
yeah,
have some sort of knowledge or some sort of support somewhere where
yeah,
you can bounce ideas off of people or get the right kind of guidance. But you're just there going, okay, I need to be the IT person, I need to be the marketing person, I need to be the salesperson, I need to be the finance person, all this kind of stuff, and I need to actually deliver on whatever
yeah,
it is I'm
exactly.
selling. You
Yeah,
know,
there is so much, isn't there? And I think they're going back to the thing you mentioned there, and you lighted on was about, and this is really quite hard work in those um, not retail craftsman type businesses where I know business. I know a plumbing business and I know a woodworking business where he builds special design roofs and things. So he puts in the structure for that, and they're coming off the tools and now managing a team, and they are really finding that difficult because they know that through their age that their knees are giving out and their backs are giving, so they can't stay on the tools for too long because it's really causing them physical difficulty. But they did enjoy it when they were doing it, and now they're managing other plumbers or in this case carpenters, and they hate it and they do say they use the word I hate doing it. What do you hate about it? Well, because I can't get them to do the work as I want it done. So how have you shown them? Oh, I've shown them this. We go on different trainings and stuff, but it's just the hassle of managing them, and and that comes down to they don't have a process in place. So it's the skills of okay, I manage people. What processes can I put in place to make it easier for me? And how can I make that enjoyable to myself? Because if you get somebody who hates managing people, guess what? They're not going to. So those people are going to leave. Just like this IT guy, that's probably a similar situation. Is that he ends up back on his own, but now because you've had extra staff and you've taken on a bit more work, and then when it all falls apart, you haven't got the capacity to manage that extra work. So you're really in a rock and a hard place. So
I just
it's
thinking,
very difficult for that kind of industry to come off the tools and learn management. But it is there. There's stuff. Google courses. You don't have to have an HR manager, but you do need to invest the time in certainly learning the basics and learning the fundamentals so that you can start helping them develop in the way that you want them to.
yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking then as well, how many times have you heard stories or seen it where someone's got promoted So like you'll get like the best salesperson has been promoted to manage
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
just like they hate it because they love sales and now they're managing people and they don't like doing that. And it's
Mm.
just a total mess. But I think sometimes you get how many times we spoke about it in the podcast before where we say about, look, knowing what you want from the outset. So it's like if you want the lifestyle business, you don't need 20 members of staff kind of thing,
No.
or
Yeah.
you need to get that management section in place first before take off or whatever it is. But it just is that stuff, isn't it? Like you said, it is learning. It's not learning to master everything, but it's just learning stuff to give yourself like more confidence. And we talk about clarity and confidence, and then the courage to do things. I think that happens a lot in business as well. Like you said, with staff, is that they will shy away from things or even leave if there isn't that knowledge that they can
Mm.
have. Then you're not passing on that knowledge, or the self belief then is missing. So
Yeah.
maybe knowledge, skill, and self belief. It's like if one of those is missing, it's going to fall apart. And like whether then if you're running a business or you're looking to start a business and stuff like that, we talk about clarity, confidence, and courage. And it's like it's having the clarity around, okay, what is it I'm actually looking to do and how am I going to be doing that? The confidence then to be like, okay, this is how it's all going to work, this is how I can put it together, and the courage to actually then do it.
Yeah. 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 And from my point of view, I mean, just simple things. There's from an aspirations point of view that I coach is simple things. So when you start out in business, what are your goals? And sometimes people know have don't really understand how to set goals properly. Again, it's all on the internet. It's all can be read on and it can be learned. But there's a good way of setting goals and a way that is just a bit flaky, And often a lot of people will set these flaky goals and then they that they're not set properly, and I mean properly in the sense that they are there, but they don't know how to reach them properly. So they go off on a limb, they go off on a tangent, and all of a sudden they're doing things that are totally unrelated to what actually they wanted to do in the first place. Um, but it is difficult. I'm talking about those 5 levels of business. Is when you get to the higher levels, and you've again we've dealt with companies who have grown really 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 big, and now they want to go into being a PLC. Now that is just a minefield. Now I'm not saying again that you have to learn everything because when they're at that stage, they can bring in experts and people who can help them to manage that thing of PLC. But you have to know the basics. You have to know that what you're being told is the right stuff to do. Like you said, you've got to have some basic understanding of right. This is what I need to put in place. These are the things I need to think about. Who can help me? Not who are the right people to help me. Not how can I do it myself? Because
Yeah.
in those situations you won't. But it's every time you take a different step up, you're going to get different problems, and that's the whole thing, isn't it? That people think that once they understood business at, say, this level down here, level 1, if you like, that when they get to level 3, it's still going to be as good. But level 3 will probably take a totally different set of skills, probably soft skills with people and that kind of stuff, rather than the competency skills or the capability skills, if you like, that people needed at level 1. Like the plumbing, or like me writing, for example, and that kind of thing. Um,
I was just thinking then, like you said, it is that thing of I think a lot of people kind of look at it where they go, okay, if I move from business level 1 to business level 3, it's just 3 times of where I am now.
yeah,
So it's fine, but it's actually 30 times of where you are now. It's
yeah,
like, there's
yeah.
so much going on. Like you said, you imagine a plumber, and it's like, okay, you're a plumber, you are going out and doing your work, you've got your van, you've got your insurance, you've got your skill, you can only work so many hours a day, right? Okay, you get to a point then where it makes sense to grow, or you want to make more money, or you want to have more free time, whatever it is. Well, now you've got to get more people in. Like I said, that there's HR and there's payroll and
Mm.
there's
Oh,
making sure that all the different vans are there and the tools are there, and if anyone messes up, if you've got holiday to cover and all this, and it's like and that there is not even thinking about it. That's just what I've
mm.
just kind of
Yeah,
sorted
yeah,
out, right? But
yeah.
also that there's all these different things that you now have to be able to juggle all these different things. So like so being an entrepreneur wearing different hats and you're bootstrapping it, but when you grow a bit and you make a bit of money, you might be able to pay to relieve some of that pressure. But you still have then different things that you have to work on and
Mm.
control and stuff like that. So I think business is always yeah, it is always a tough game, and it is the people at the top who succeed, And when I say that, what I mean by that is the people who don't give up that make it, right. If you listen to any kind of, I'm gonna say guru, but I know we kind of talk about guru in like, that kind of fake guru kind of thing. But there are the people who are the so-say gurus, or the ones who are at the top of their game, they've made it and stuff like that. They've all got a struggle story, right?
Mm.
You
Oh
know,
yeah,
and it's like you always hear about it. You always hear that there's a struggle story and stuff like that. But the difference between their struggle story and probably everyone's struggle story is that they didn't give up. They kept working through,
yeah, yeah,
because you only lose if you quit.
yeah,
And I think so many people do that when they could just take that time, sometimes taking a step back to take two steps forward, sometimes
yeah.
going, okay, I just need to learn about this stuff, or I just need to educate on that stuff. And I think the thing as well, when we talk about learning, we're not talking about going out there and kind of learning in a degree level, or learning a topic or anything like that. It's just building up your knowledge so that you
Mm.
can deploy that knowledge to work for you.
Mm. There was interesting. I remember being coached by. I used to have a coach years ago, and he himself had a coach, and he was coached in the same circle as Richard Branson, or Sir, I should say, Sir Richard Branson. And apparently they were on a plane coming back from somewhere, I'm not sure where, and they were sat next to each other in the seat. And he said to Richard Branson, he said, "How come you just spent, I think it was a whole week seminar, on people skills and people management, being where you are now? Because you must have hundreds of people who can do that for you." And his response was, "Yeah, but if I stop learning and show that I don't that I'm one step ahead of my team, then they'll lose the respect for me." And he was just, wow, that really blew him away. And the whole point is that you going back to the very beginning of the call, we were talking about having learning goals, and it's having those learning goals. You should never ever stop learning, and you can never really learn enough, but you can learn enough that you need for that particular moment, and then as you get as going back to HR, for example, as it becomes more complex, you don't need to know the details of it, but you need to know how it can become more complex and the things you need to do. As you go into more complex contracts, if you start going to bidding for public service contracts and that kind of stuff, there I've never seen one, but I imagine their contracts are ridiculously long, and they are going to be protecting themselves every possible way they can. So you need to make sure that you know enough of that law, and obviously you're going to have to get people to help you out. But you again, that's again a skill, a learning is who are the right people to help you out. Have you built a team? How are you going to build your team? So it's all those kind of that's all still learning as well, and learning to understand that I don't want to be stitched up by like a kipper by this contract. How can I avoid that and make sure that you're going there partly on your terms? But yeah, it's goals every step of the way. We talk about having income goals, and we talk about having turnover goals and conversion goals. People need in business, people must set learning goals, because it is probably more important than even all the other stuff as well. Because moving into, like we just said time and time again, is that as you move up or move out into different areas, things in those markets may change, or may have different rules and regulations. You need to be aware of that.
I mean, that's massive, isn't it? Like, things are always going to change, but
Yeah.
it's like you always look at it as like the players change, but the game remains the same. So it's like,
Mm.
if you have that basic level, no matter what's going on, you still come back to those foundations and kind
Yeah.
of go, okay, if we need to adapt to this, okay, we're only adapting, we're not starting from zero, that kind of thing, and building up. But I like what you said there as well. I mean, yeah, it is that you could be learning from your team. It doesn't mean that you have to be a level above that, everything, and that kind of thing. Is that you can be learning stuff there. And it's like, for me, yeah, I'll still watch courses and listen to podcasts and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
on
Mm.
marketing topics and online businesses and different things like that. And I could be listening to a podcast for an hour, or watching a training or video or something like that for an hour, right? And it's just going over stuff that I know. And it's just like, to me, it's like training, right? It's
Mm.
like a boxer knows how to throw a punch, but they still go through training and run through the drills. Right? Is that you do the
Yeah,
same thing. You learn you go over it and you're just like, yeah, I remember that refresher on this. Okay, yeah, that's a jab kind of thing. And then someone will say something and you'd be like, I either forgot that or this is a new realization to me, or you know what, if I adapt that in what I'm doing here, that actually fits
yeah,
quite well. And it's that kind of stuff is like, like you said, always learning. You're compounding your results then because
yeah,
you've got your baseline, you're learning different things, you're going, okay, this is building up, this is happening. Great, and it's like it doesn't matter who you learn from or where you learn from, you can learn from anyone. And it's that you're saying now, I mean, that continuous learning, I think for a lot of people, especially it's like in the UK, and I'm sure it's different places around the world as well, is that you go to school, you might go off to higher education like college or uni or something. That's usually where it stops. And then
yeah,
you might do some training when you get into a job or something like that. But you never, most people never take the time to go, okay, what is it I want to learn? What is it I want to work towards or something like
yeah,
that, that I can go, okay, I'm building up towards this. And it could be a passion thing. It could be that you're just like, you're not interested in growing a big business or anything like that. Maybe you've got a job or a business, but you're like, I really like sailing, and I want to create something around the business about sailing, and maybe I want to create a blog. Okay, I'm going to learn how to create a blog,
mm,
and it's like it's
yeah,
learning how to do that and build up from that. But
mm,
yeah, it's
yeah,
all
absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think certainly when it comes to going back to the trades, if you like, and the carpentry thing, just learning this, this particular carpentry business, the guy is really, really a skilled carpenter, but even he says there's always stuff to learn because things are changing. Even the types of woods that are used are changing. People finding new wood, and they behave in a different way. And you get down to that kind of basic level as well. But one thing about businesses, when you're a business owner and you get into that idea of just learning all the time, you start to be able to look over the horizon. You'll start to find things that are coming along that you think, hang on a minute, if we, for example, if we've got AI now and it's doing this, what is it going to be like in a year's time? So you can start learning and finding out what's in the pipeline, because you'll steal a march on people ahead of you. And if you've got a team, they will suddenly think, wow, this person really knows what they're doing. And your team will trust you and support you even more. But the point is, the more you do that, the more you start looking ahead, and you can say, and you can actually make this a decision early sometimes where this is a dead end now because, for example, just say you manufacture diesel cars. You think, oh, okay, in the UK they're going to stop being manufactured. That is a dead end. I need to now think, right, where am I going to change? How am I going to change the way we manufacture cars and the way we do things? So because things change and the environment, laws, and all the rest of us change, you may find that your business has got a finite life, even though you didn't think it would have. But by knowing that and before time, you can start making steps now to change or tweak slightly so that when it comes along and it's going to catch so many other businesses out, it's not going to catch you out because you've moved. So again, that whole learning is all about what's going on around you, the whole environment as well. And that's, you could call that awareness, but it's still a learning. You're learning and becoming more aware of what's happening.
I think like that there, I was just about to say that's massive, and like we say
Mm,
it, don't we, on like these podcasts, that we just start talking about a topic and things kind of just evolve, and then there's we feel like we talk about good stuff anyway, but there's always different nuggets that just kind of come up from it, right? And that there is like, yeah, okay, you're thinking about it as learning to learning to develop a skill or something like that, but it's actually like it's looking forward, isn't it? So even like for
mm,
yourself, it's like you're developing a skill now to help you do something moving forward, or you're looking at something now to help your business move forward in 2 years time. Like how many times, I think that this is a I was going to say it's a problem, but everyone does it, and I think you have to do it to a certain extent, but you have to also be looking at the second part. So the first part is that everyone kind of wants it now, right? So
yeah.
what can I do to get results now? What can I do, for the next week, for the next month? When really, they should be looking at the next 2 years, 3 years kind of thing, going, okay, how do we build up towards that? And I think you need to do both. But for most people, they miss that 2 years, and then it just comes back to why they're just repeating each month. And then we said it in the podcast last week as well. It's like, okay, once you start doing that, you just repeat each month, or then you just keep repeating each year. You
Mm,
never move forward and stuff like that. So there has to be planning. There has to be stuff to move forward. And learning is just a part of that. It's moving it forward, you know. And like, I was just thinking then as well, for you take a business, we were talking about something earlier, and I thought to myself, yeah, okay, if you take McDonald's, like they got it pretty spot on, haven't they? Because they go through staff, like the turnover is quite high and stuff like that, you know. But the staff member comes in, they just get shown what to do. They're on one station, okay, this is the 3 step thing that you
Mm.
do, and then you
Yeah.
move it on, you know. And it's like it's just simple as that. That okay, you know, you put your processes in place and everything like that, and it's there. But even like someone like McDonald's is like, right, okay, we can shave off 1 second for
Mm.
each time we do something, it's going to equal X amount of stuff. So yeah, okay, we are going to try this technology in there to do this. You know, okay, we are going to try putting 2 people
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
station rather than one, or you know, vice versa, to kind of work it out. And like, just before we wrap stuff up for this episode, I'll tell you a little story. I was watching a video recently, and it said Starbucks are the best marketers in the world, right? And it
Oh,
it went in to say, right, that we all get manipulated by Starbucks, right? So when you go into Starbucks and you get a takeaway coffee, they write your name on the cup, right? So they ask you what
mhm.
your name is, and then they write the name on the cup. And you see all these posts, don't you, where people have like they post a picture. Oh, I told them my name was this, and they've put this, you know. So it's
Yeah.
like you'll say like Mark, and it come out with like Lark, or you know, it'd be like Marker or something like that, right? But what they're saying is that when people get that and they get the wrong name, right? They take a picture of it and they post it on social media. They don't do that when they get the right name, you know. So you know the tactic of a Starbucks shop is every now and again they mess up the name just so they get a few more
Just so they
shares
get
and
a,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
there's part of me going, okay, I can
Mm.
kind of see that. I mean, I do
Mm.
think people, you know, people are just in a rush sometimes and not really listening, and it's just like, yeah, okay, we'll usually change that, yeah, Jim instead of Jamie, that would do,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like if I post a picture then going, oh man, I told them my name was Jamie, but they put Jim on there, you know,
Mm.
or Jimmy or something like that, you know, and it's like, but everyone sees the Starbucks logo.
Yeah, they do. That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no one ever turns around and says, I'm not going back to that shop because they called me
No,
Jamie
they
instead of
don't. They
Jamie,
don't.
you know.
They'll go back and they'll go back probably hoping they'll find a spelling mistake with their name.
But I was just like, yeah, okay, you know, that makes sense. And it is just that whole kind of thing. You know, we talk about marketing a lot. We talk about lots of different kind of promotion and, you know, with different angles to play. And I was like, yeah, okay. A lot of people will say, yeah, okay, it's bad marketing because you're messing up and everything. It's like, but it doesn't cause any harm, does it? That's the thing.
No. If you want to talk about bad marketing, you just got to ask how Donald Trump does it. Donald Trump, when he was in when he was running for election, that the when he for the previous elections, he was in the papers every day. Didn't matter whether it was good or bad. He was in the papers every day. In fact, he was in the papers probably 4 or 5 times every day, every day, every day. You saw Donald Trump's face every day. That's marketing.
Yeah, he's a smart guy, mate.
Yeah,
I'll tell you,
yeah,
mate, you love him or hate him, whatever your thoughts are
exactly. Yeah,
on
yeah,
the man, right? It doesn't
yeah.
matter. He
No,
is a marketing genius.
yeah,
Because, like you said, good or bad, it doesn't matter what he says. You see him, you remember him. Everyone knows. You go around the world, people will know him.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like it's just that thing, you know, of keeping up appearances and sailing a bit close to the wind and even overstepping sometimes. But even
Absolutely.
like
But
that there is just technology. I mean, if you actually look at the stories of Donald Trump and stuff like that, I mean, he was doing all the same stuff in person back in the 90s and stuff like that when he's like built half of New York. Like,
yeah, yeah,
he was
exactly.
still like sailing close to the wind on everything then. It's just
Mm.
social media and everything just it just heightens everything, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
awareness. But
Uh,
you're right. It is like that. I mean, yeah, crazy. Maybe, yeah, maybe we'll save that for another podcast episode on
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Try not to get it pulled and
No, no.
muted and all that, but
Yeah.
it would be interesting to look at some of that stuff. But yeah, do you know what? Yeah, we'll have to think about obviously topics for next time. But
Mm.
we'll look to wrap things up. Is there anything you want to
I,
sum
ju-
up?
I, I just think to sum up is really just to say that learning, keeping learning, growing your awareness, but learning new skills and doing a kind of a skills audit almost of what you don't know, and
Mm.
then learning filling those gaps with knowledge. It's as important as setting goals for all the other stuff. Learning goals are so important. You've got to carry on learning.
I'm going to say this as well. I mean, people may go against us or they may add things in, but I'm just kind of looking at stuff and I'm going, look, if you're there going, okay, I want to learn something, but I don't know what. It's like if you start learning something about finance, or if you start learning something about sales, or if you start learning something about marketing, or you start learning something about mindset, that's going to set you, straight for whatever it is that you end up learning, or whatever path you kind of take, because these skills are just skills in everything that we do.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Mate, we'll wrap things up
Okay.
there, and we'll come
Yep.
back
Okay.
in another week's time, and do it all again. But Marcus, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
So,
So, indeed, it has, and thanks for watching.
catch you next time.